My name is Garrett Fry, and I created OpenAppGuide.com to teach people how to use open source applications to enrich their lives and better their careers. As a leader of learning and development, I've just launched my personal portfolio site, yet another example of how I've personally benefited from open source applications. My portfolio site has gotten a pretty good reception, so I thought I would draw back the curtain and show you how I created this site with open source and how you too can create your own portfolio site to support your personal brand. So let's get started. To kick things off, we're going to look at all the different components that you're going to need to build your portfolio website. And the best way to do that is to go to openappguide.com and take a look at the project blueprint. So if you go over here to the home page and go under projects and then scroll down to portfolio, then you're going to see all of the blueprints listed here. This one is the Showcase Your Work with Joomla portfolio. So if we click on that blueprint and go down, this is going to give us all the different components that we're going to need to build our portfolio website. So first off, to create the base of your portfolio website, you're going to need to use Joomla, the free open source platform, and have a hosting account here. The one I recommend is Scala Hosting. I'll tell you exactly which plan I think is going to be the best for you. And then as part of the core setup, you're going to need to have the YOOtheme Pro extension installed on your Joomla site. For utilities, you're going to need to have a Kiba backup. That's always a standard. You need a way to be able to back up your website and make sure that you have copies of it, either to migrate it to a different hosting provider or to have some kind of disaster recovery plan in place for your website. You're going to be putting a lot of time into it, so you need to make sure that you have a backup strategy. The next are add-ons, and these are optional add-ons, but add some really great functionality to your site. The first one is RS Forms. This one will give you the ability to create forms on your website. So if you're collecting people's information, if they need to set up a call with you, if they need to put in their client information or anything on your portfolio website, this is a really great extension to do that. Also, YOOtheme Pro Essentials from Zoolanders is a great collection of different extensions that expand the ability of the YOOtheme Pro framework. And so that's really fantastic there as well. So over on Scala Hosting, the plan that I would recommend is under web hosting. And then if you scroll down, it is this entry cloud plan right here. So you can see that there's a little bit of a difference between these three plans here on the left and this one here. And that is because these three are shared hosting plans for hosting multiple open source applications and having all of the features that you're going to need to do that successfully. I would not recommend using these shared hosting plans. This is the cheapest cloud hosting plan. That means it unlocks some abilities for you to be able to host those multiple open source applications and to have all the functionality that you need. It also gives you the ability to have dedicated resources so that you're not sharing your resources with other people. So that's the plan that I would recommend there. Also on YOOtheme Pro, if you go over to Page Builder, Buy Now, you can see down here there's a Joomla button. You're going to want to make sure that you buy the Joomla version of that, and you're going to be looking at 129 euros that you're going to be paying for that. And as far as things paid, that's all you're going to need is the YOOtheme Pro and your hosting account. But if you did want extra features, you could go to zoolanders.com and pick up the YOOtheme Pro Essentials extension package that's going to enhance YOOtheme Pro. So if you go over here to join now, you can see that is at a 59 euro cost right there. And then the next one here, Akiba Backup, they have a free version of Akiba Backup. If you go over here to downloads, you can see that there is the Joomla version right there, and you can download the free version or you can get the pro version there. Right now on the site, I have the pro version installed, which gives you a bunch of additional features, including the ability to back up your site and then send it to a different storage provider like Amazon S3 or Dropbox, or they have a bunch of different providers that it's connected to, which is a really great disaster recovery plan for your site. But for what we're doing, you just need the free version. Now, if you want to access any of these URLs, then going over to the blueprint is a really easy way of doing that. So the last one that we haven't looked at is RS Form Pro. If you click on that, it's going to take you to that page that has some great information on the extension, but also has a link to RS Form Pro, and it's going to take you to where you need to go. So you can pick up this extension for 30 euros. Like I said, this one is optional if you're wanting to build some really advanced forms on your Joomla site. But if you need a lighter version, don't worry, because if you're going to go ahead and buy the essentials for YOOtheme Pro anyways, it comes with a form builder that is integrated into YOOtheme. It's not as capable as RS Forms, but if you're just looking for something light, this is a really great option for you. And lastly, I just want to do a bit of an honorable mention, and that is Flart.studio, and they're a really great developer for creating YOOtheme Pro elements. You can see them all listed here. There's free and paid versions. Under the free versions of these elements, I use Counter Pro on the site, and so I just wanted to call that out. So if you saw that on the site and you're like, how did he do that? This is the extension that I used for that. But there's a bunch of other ones here that are really fantastic for you to try out here, so I highly recommend this developer here. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into our Joomla site. Now, after you've gone through and installed all of your extensions by going to System and Install Extensions and dragging the files into here, then you're going to have YOOtheme Pro pop up here on the left-hand side. So if you go ahead and click on that, one of the first things that you're probably going to want to do is select a style for your website from one of the pre-built styles. So to do that, if you go over here to Style, you can see here that there's a bunch of styles that you can choose from here, which are all really fantastically designed. And so you just want to start out with what is your brand that you're going for, or you can just scroll through them all right here. So this gives you the choice of multiple color schemes for each site, which is pretty cool. So there's a ton of different options. But once you've picked one, then you can style on top of that and make it uniquely yours. And that's what I would recommend for your portfolio site, because you don't want it looking exactly like somebody else's. And that's the benefit of YOOtheme Pro, is the ability to customize your website to be exactly what it is that you want. So if you did select one, here I have Matthew Taylor Dark Yellow right here, but this doesn't look anything like the original, and that's because I've gone through and I've made changes on all the different components here. If I wanted to take a look at the styling of the website, then I would go over here to preview all UI components. And this is going to give me a preview of all of the styling on the website, from the different font styles to buttons to boxes to the different heading sizes. Gives me all of the styling all in one place, which is really cool. So one thing that you might have noticed is that as I move my cursor around, it gives this little tooltip pop up right here. So this one right here, article text, it's telling us which menu item on the left-hand side here that I can find the settings for that. So if you're like, hey, I really want to change this heading style right here, it's under article, base, or link. And here on the left-hand side is the article. And if you select that, then it changes the preview to show you all of the components that make up the article and all of the settings on the left-hand side. So I can make these changes on the left-hand side and get a live preview of all the changes on the right-hand side, which is pretty cool. Also, I can hover over all these menu items here on the left-hand side, and you can see they're being highlighted here on the right side. So here you can see this is the breadcrumb element, and if I hover over that, it's going to highlight that breadcrumb for me. So this is a really great way to be able to pick things out of your style that you may not know the name for, and be able to find it here on the left hand side. And you can also do that from the menu here, which is pretty great. Now, if you go back up here and turn off the UI components, this also gives you the same ability on your actual website. So if you're working on your website and you see something and you're like, that's not quite styled correctly, then you can hover over them and it's going to give you a preview. So you can see that this is a button. It's also using the grid element here. And then I can go over here and find button right there. So those are buttons. If I click on that, then I can make adjustments and I can see the changes here. But if I wanted to see them in isolation again, if I go over here and then buttons, it's just going to show me just the buttons and what they look like. So to really quickly just sum up the first step of creating your portfolio website, and that is the style. And you can always come back and adjust the style throughout, but this initial step that you're going to make is that you're going to pick one of these pre-built styles, and then you're going to go through here on the left-hand side and make your fine-tune adjustments so that your site is uniquely yours. So once you've done that, it's time to start creating some pages. So let's go over what it looks like to create some pages on your Joomla site with your YOOtheme Pro framework. So to create a page, I'm going to go over here and click back, and I'm going to go over here to pages, and this lists all of the pages. So there's a difference in Joomla between articles and menu items. These are all of the articles. And in order for your article to be displayed in a menu, you need to create an article and then attach it to a menu. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that really quickly. So I'm going to say this is my test page right here. Now for it to show up here on the left-hand side in YOOtheme, I need to put it in the right category. You can see here that I've created several categories. By default, if you put this into the uncategorized category, it's going to show up here as pages unless you make some changes within the YOOtheme settings. I've gone ahead and done that, and I've made it so that if it is part of the site pages category, then it's going to show up here on the left-hand side, because you're going to have a bunch of articles like blog articles and products or whatever, any type of article type. You don't want it showing up here as your site pages. So that's why it's being constrained by a category. So I'm going to go ahead and click save here. You can also do this step if you go back into the base Joomla and go over here to content and articles. You can see there's the test page that we created just right now, and we assigned it to that category. You can also create it here, which is basically the same interface that you're utilizing. You're just doing it through the YOOtheme Pro framework interface as opposed to the base Joomla interface. So you can create articles in menus and components all within the Joomla interface, or you can do it within the YOOtheme Pro one there. So I just wanted to quickly show you that. So let's go ahead and go back to our YOOtheme Pro and go to our pages, and you can see our test page is right there. Now, if I wanted to attach this page to a menu item, then I would go back over here to the top level of the YOOtheme menus, and I would click this one here, menus. And you can see I have all of these menus that I've created already for this website listed here. And I also have all of these positions. Now I'm handling the menus just a little bit differently on this site. You can see here that when you click this, it's going to display all of the menu on this left-hand side. But if I wanted to have a more traditional menu right here where it's all listed at the top, then I would go right here into the header position, and I would select the main menu, and you can see them all pop up here. So if I went over here to the main menu and I said add new menu item, then I would say my test menu right here. Then I would click on the menu item type right here, and I would go over here to articles, single article, and then I would find that article that we just created. So here we go, test page right there. And if I click save, now I've created a menu item and I've attached it to that article. So now when you click on this menu right here, it's going to take you to that article that we just created. So you can see that right down here. So there you go. There's the test menu. You can see it kind of bugs out. I don't have enough room up here on the top for all of my menu items. But if you're designing your site, you can make sure that you don't have too many of these menus up here at the top. Now I can also see this menu that we just created in the base Joomla application. And if I wanted to see that, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. And I'm going to go close. And if I go down here to menus, and I check out my main menu here and scroll down, you're going to see the test menu is listed right there. If I wanted to create new menus, I could do so in this interface. The YOOtheme Pro framework just gives you access to some of the core Joomla functionality from the web page builder interface just to make things easier for you so you don't have to switch back and forth. But I wanted to show you that creating menus and managing menus is a part of the core Joomla functionality. It just integrates really well with YOOtheme Pro. So now I'm in the page builder. On the left-hand side, there's nothing here. It's prompting me to create a new layout or open a template. On the right-hand side, it just has some basic information about this article that comes in as default. This stuff down here is part of the footer that's designed somewhere else, but this is your page layout. So if I wanted to go to a new layout, I could do that. You can see it just creates a blank section here. If I click on this plus, then I have the ability to add individual elements that we have here. So all of these are the basic elements. These are going to list just one item that you have here. So it's like one quotation, one headline, one text field. Over here are the multiple items. So if you wanted to do an accordion, it's going to list multiple accordion items, a gallery, a grid, a slideshow. So these are the multiple items. These are going to be your system elements here, where you can set breadcrumbs and search and module positions. And here are the Flart Studio YOOtheme Pro elements that I installed, and then also the YOOtheme Pro Zoolander's essential ones. You can find those here, and all of the ones for their forms down here. So if you're installing additional YOOtheme Pro elements, they're all going to show up here for you to add to your website. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a headline basic element here. And if I click on that, I have a content window. I can view this as a visual editor, which gives me some options here to do some HTML styling. Or if you want to do all of the HTML yourself, then you can see it over here. So let's go ahead and add something here. And then on this next tab here, I have the ability to do some styling that's specific for this element. Every element is going to have different options here in the settings tab. So I can go ahead and make this really huge on all different sizes. I can go ahead here and change some of the decoration options. I can change the font family here, and all of this is being controlled through your styling that we went over before. So you can change the color of these here. And so this gives you a bunch of different options here. Also, you have the ability to control the margin. That is the top spacing and the bottom spacing. You're definitely going to be adjusting that. So to show that off, I'm just going to go over here and create a text element here. And let's say I wanted to change the styling of this element. And so I'm going to go over here and say I want it to be the lead text style to make that bigger. And I want to change the space between test page and this text. And so to do that, I'm going to go down here to the margin under the headline settings, and I can change this here. So I can say that it's small or extra large. So if I set this to, let's say, none, so this doesn't have any margin, but this element below has a margin to it as well. So if I go down here, And now you'll be able to see the changes there. That's the small, default, large, extra large, and you have the ability to remove the top margin or the bottom margin. So if I do that, then it's just going to remove that margin completely, which is pretty cool. Now those are single elements. If I wanted to create an element that could list multiple items inside it, then I would go down here and create a new one under multiple items. One of my favorites here is the grid. I probably use that one more than anything else. If you select that, it gives you the ability to create multiple items here. So if you go over here and you say add, I'm going to say title here, meta, and then just put in some content here. You can see how that's being filled out there. And I can duplicate this item. And you can see how you can create multiple items along this. Each one of these comes with its own settings, which is going to be a little more limited than the actual element settings, which you're going to find right here. And this is going to give you all of the styling options for the grid. Some other settings on the grid that I just want to call out here is the ability to tell it how many you want to have lined up here and for what size of screen. So on the bottom here, you can actually set the screen size here, and it'll give you a preview of all the different standard sizes that you're going to need for smaller laptops to the iPad and phones here, so tablets and things. So I can go ahead and I can set this and say for tablet landscape, I actually want it to just be 2. And so if I go to the tablet one here on the landscape, then it's going to do it to 2. But if I changed it to 3, then you can see that it's going to move that over and make space for 3. And then you can have this change right here. So if I want it to be here phone landscape, then it's going to do 2. But if I do phone portrait, then it's going to make it down, collapse it down to 1. So those are some really powerful features that are all built in to this element right here. There's also a ton of features that I'm just not going to go over in the scope of this video, like the ability to set up a way to filter different items on your grid. You can set it up so that you have a light box, so that if you click on the image, it brings it up into a light box. You can set these so that they have different panels back there and set the padding for each of those, which is pretty cool. You can adjust the styling of the title, the meta, the content, and the image. So there's a ton of options here just for this one grid element. And each one of these elements has a bunch of customization that you can do for that. Starting things from scratch can be a little intimidating, and so YOOtheme Pro thankfully comes with a bunch of pre-made elements. So if you go over here to Add Element, and then if you go to Pro Presets, then you can go through and select different types of elements. So we were just looking at the grid. So here are a bunch of pre-styled grid elements that you can select. So if I just went ahead and selected that, it's going to populate that into my layout. And now I can come in here and make adjustments to all of that. And you can see how they've constructed this particular element. So you can reverse engineer a lot of really cool styled elements already. And if you've set up an element that you really, really like, then you can come up here and select this little icon right here, Save in Library. And this is going to put it in your library so that you can use it in other parts of your site. So you're going to see all of those My Presets set right here. Now, finding pre-styled elements and inserting them into our layout is really useful, but you can also do the same thing, but with the whole page. So to do that, you go over here to Library, and you can go through the different layout types here, the different types of pages. You can also pick the website that you would be pulling your style from here, and you have the ability to replace the layout, insert it at the top or at the bottom. So let's go ahead and replace our website here, and let's go ahead and use this guy here, and let's click this About page. So if I click that, I'm going to say yes, replace my whole layout, and you can see it's taken all of those elements of that layout and brought it into your website. And it's actually using all of the styling that comes with your website. So you can use any of the layouts from any of the sites that YOOtheme has provided. And once you pull it in, it's going to use the same font families and colors and style and everything like that, which is pretty cool. So any element or template page that you pull into your website, it's going to inherit all the styling that you've set. So that means that you can go through and just pick out little sections of different pages that you want to use for your website. And that's a really great way of actually constructing your website from all these pre-built parts of pages. Now, I do want to point out here on the left-hand side here is our outline for our page builder, and it is made up of sections and rows. So you can see here it says benefits. This whole thing right here is a section, and then each one of these is a row within that section. So awards, about, call to action, all of those are sections. And the great thing about this is that you can go over here to this edit, and this gives you the ability to make adjustments, style adjustments to that section. Each one can have different styling applied to the whole section. You can also change the width to be really big or to be really small there. And you can adjust the padding on the top and on the bottom. So there's a lot of options there. You can even put an image in the background of the section. And then it's made up of individual rows. Each row has its own editing capability there and its layout. So here under the layout, you can pick a bunch of different layouts that come with the YOOtheme Pro framework. So if I wanted to actually put this layout into thirds, then you can see that now I have 3 columns here, and this image has been put into here. So if I wanted to add more content to this section here, I'm going to put a headline, and I'm going to put in a text there. And you can go through on any of these elements and disable the element. You don't have to delete it. You can disable it, it'll still show up here, but that gives you the ability to mess around with your layout and not have to delete things to be able to preview them. So if I go back over here to the settings and then scroll down here, I can say my max width, I want it to be small, and then I'm adjusting the row width independently from all of these other rows. So this row has a different width than all of these here. So there's a lot of really fine-tuned settings that you can make, and it's super, super flexible to build whatever you want within the framework. Now let's say I'm gonna go ahead and save this layout. It's gonna ask me to download all of these media files. It's gonna go through that process. I should say here that all of the media files that come with these YOOtheme Pro templates are free to use. So any of those you can use on your website. If I go over here to close and go to content and articles, and I click on our test page there, then you can see that normally when we create an article, there's going to be a big text input field where we would create our article. But here you can see it's all whited out, and it gives us this big button that says YOOtheme Builder. That means that this page has been taken over by the YOOtheme Pro framework. And if you want to make some changes to this page, you don't do it in the article here, you do it inside of the builder. Because in the builder, that's where you're specifying the sections and the rows and all the different elements that create that page. And you can't make those kinds of changes in here. So I just want to contrast that with another type of article here, and that is going to be a blog article. This one, why I started an L&D passion project teaching people open source. So if you click on that, then you're going to see that there is a whole section here where I actually have a blog article. Now, the article is the base content type for Joomla. And these articles, even though they're named articles, they can be anything that you would want. They can be a product, they can be a blog article, they can be a site page, it could be anything. And because Joomla has that level of flexibility with its base content type, the article, then you can specify some of these pages as being site pages and being taken over by the YOOtheme Pro framework, and some that are traditional blogs. Now, what I want to show you here is how to get a blog article or any other type of content to show up on your front end of your site through the YOOtheme Pro framework. Now, before I show you how to do that technically, I want to point out that every Joomla article comes with a set of default fields that you can use to show through on the front end of your website through the YOOtheme Pro framework. So we have the main content window article text that's right here. We also have category. We have tags. If you go over here to images and links, we have intro images and a bunch of extra fields here, including the full article image right there. Now there's another tab here called fields. This is where I've created custom fields for this type of article. Joomla has a really fantastic native capability of being able to create custom fields and attach them to different types of articles, or I should say different types of categories of articles. Here I've created a text input field for the intro text, and also I have article intro as a different field, and I specified this as being a full editor field right there. So to show you these fields and how they're constructed, I'm going to close out of this article, and I'm going to go over here to fields, and you can see I have intro text and article intro right here. If I clicked on one of these fields, let's say the intro text right here, you can see that this is a text area type field, and I have some options here that I can adjust, like how many rows and columns, etc. Over here on the right hand side, this gives me the ability to specify a category. This category is going to control where this field shows up. I can put articles inside of the project category, the site pages category, or news, or any other categories that I create for my articles. And that means that this field is only going to show up for articles that have been put into that category. So if I had a product category, let's say, and I wanted to have size, weight, in dimensions, then I can create custom fields for that and assign those to the product category. That means any article that I create and put inside of that category is going to have those fields show through, and those fields are not going to show up for any other article put into other categories. I also have the option here to put fields inside of a field group, which is going to be the tab that shows up in the article. The tab that I showed you was called Fields, but you can specify a specific field group, assign a bunch of custom fields to a field group, and then it's going to be under that tab. And you can see here, right here are the field groups. I don't have any field groups specified, but you could specify them here. And lastly, I want to show you that you can go over here to New, and you can specify what type of field that you want to create. You can see that there's quite a big list right here. You can install additional extensions into Joomla that's going to expand this list, that's going to give you a lot more options. But this just shows you how really awesome these features are for Joomla, and it provides a massive amount of flexibility for creating all different types of content. So what we've just covered is that Joomla has articles that you can create. It has a bunch of default fields that are associated with those articles, and you can create custom fields and attach them to different types of articles that are in different categories. And you can create the categories for articles right there. And that's all well and good for organizing your content on the back end, but where this all really comes together is how it shows through on the front end of your website. So to show you that, I'm going to go back into YOOtheme Pro here. I'm going to go to our test page, and I'm going to go ahead and add a new section here. And I'm going to drag that to the top of our page, and I'm going to create a grid item. Now, if I go into the options here and I create an item, you're going to see those fields that we went over before: title, meta, content. And you can go in here like we talked about, and you can create content right inside of this grid for this page. But you can also fill these fields dynamically with content inside of the article. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to the Advanced tab, and there is a drop down here, Dynamic Content. Now this is going to give us a bunch of different sources that we can pull from. So we can pull from this article that we're in right now, and the article that we're in right now is test page. And so we can pull out information that's in the database that we've attached to the test page article. So to do that, I'm going to click on article. And then if I go back over here to content, and under the title, I can click on this dynamic drop down right here and click on inherit. That means that it's inheriting those options that we set here in the Advanced tab. And now I have a bunch of fields that I can choose from here. You can see these are all the default fields: article, content, teaser. We have that tags, the intro image, the full article image. You can go down here and you can see the intro text and article intro fields that are custom fields that is attached to this article. So if I went up here and said title, then that is our test page title that's showing through right here. And if I went into the meta and I said, let's go over here and let's get the published date, then that's the published date of this article. And if I wanted to go down here and say under the content, then we can specify which category, let's say, that this belongs to, and it's under the site pages category. So let's go ahead now and just change the source. So I'm going to delete these, and I'm going to change the source that we have. So instead of pointing the source to this article right here, I can go down here and I can say a custom article. So let's go here, custom article. I'm going to pull this from the projects categories right here and go over to content, and then under dynamic, let's do inherent and then the title. And then under the content, I'm going to go inherent again. And then I'm going to go down here to intro text. That's going to pull in that intro text. And then under image, I'm going to go here and I'm going to say this is our intro image right there. And then under our link, I'm going to click dynamic under here. And then I'm going to go to our link right there. And now we've created a read more link. You can also mix and match different types of content within the same grid. So we've created this custom article, which is this guy right here. So I'm going to go over here to add item. And this time I'm going to go over here to our dynamic content. And I'm going to pull in a custom category that is going to give us a list of articles. So if I click on that, and this time I'm going to say news. Go over here to our title. We're going to pick the title here. And you can see now that I've picked a list as the source, it's pulling in more than one. So I'm going to go over here and let's set this up like we had before. So that's going to publish date. And then we'll go down here to inherit. And then our intro text. And then we'll have our image right here. So inherent, and then go down to our intro image. So you can see that this text right here is a little bit long, and so we're going to want to concatenate that text. So to do that, I'm going to go over here, click edit, And then I'm going to go over here and specify the length of characters. So I'm going to say 150 characters, and then that's going to shorten that down. Now, the ability to specify a source and add in these dynamic fields is not specific to the grid element. If I went over here and created any of these elements, let's say an accordion, you can see here if I add an item, I also have these dynamic fields here. So really, you have unlimited, nearly unlimited ways of presenting the content of your articles on your Joomla site. So I'm going to go ahead and save what we've done here, and I want to show you an example of this on the site. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to navigate to the news and update section, and I'm going to click on one of these articles here. And if I go to a different section, because we've been working under the pages menu here in YOOtheme Pro, but now I'm going to go under templates. So if I click on that, you're going to see that I've specified a template. So any article that's in the news category that I created is going to inherit this template. And I can specify this template inside of here. I can go over here and say new template, and I can specify that I want it to be a single article, a category blog, featured articles, tags, and so on. So I can specify the template type and what it's going to be assigned to, and then I can filter it by the category that I want and also limit it by tags. So you can have one template design assigned to an article inside of a category that also has an associated tag. So this gives you a really granular level of being able to set up these templates and assign them to categories and articles and tags in a really dynamic way. So to show you specifically how this one is set up, if you click on the three dots right here, you can see this is news, it's a single article, and it's constrained to any articles inside of the news category. So to design this template, you click on the name and you have a page builder outliner here on the left-hand side, like you're building a site page. But instead of putting static content in here, you're going to want to bring in all of your dynamic content. So you can see here, I have the header right here. It says news. That's the category that this article belongs to. And you can see that it's pulling in the category title right there dynamically. And here is the title of the article. And right here is our custom field that I created here. If you scroll down, that's the article intro. I created that specific block right there because I wanted this to be formatted with this larger text right at the beginning of the article. And then if you go down here to this text block right here, which is this one right here, then you can see that this is the content of the article. So you can see that that's the body of the article. So all of that content is being pulled from the actual article. But if you scroll down here, then you're going to see latest posts. And this is being pulled from the general category of articles that are being posted inside of that category. And so you can do a mix and match of different types of content. You can have content that's being pulled in from the article, and then you can have other content that's being pulled in from other sources, all on the same templated page. Now quickly, I just wanted to show you, if I go back up here to our templates, this is a single article, but we also have a different type of template called the category blog. So if I go to news category, then this is the template for listing all of the blog articles inside of this category. So you'll want to set up a template for a blog category and then set up templates for the individual articles. And lastly, to get this blog category to show up in your menu, if you go back here and go into menus, and then our main menu here, I can go down here to new menu item, and under the menu item type, I can select articles and category blog right there. and then I can select which category I'm going to use. So I could select news right there. And then as soon as I click save, that's going to show up in the main menu here, and that will be selectable, and you get to navigate to that category blog. So that's how you create a portfolio site. We have reviewed all of the components that you're going to need to build your portfolio site. That's the Joomla application, the hosting, the YOOtheme Pro framework. We've discussed how to style your site, creating site pages, templates, and using those dynamic fields for all of the YOOtheme Pro elements. That definitely doesn't cover all aspects of building a portfolio site, but I hope that gives you the framework to know how all of these parts work together and you feel confident jumping into creating your own unique portfolio site for your personal brand. For more tutorials on open source applications, head over to openappguide.com.